Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show. As always, your host, Obi Muniz. Today, we will still be covering the Tag Team Turmoil hosted by Hector Vasquez. But let's talk about what happened last week. So, those of you that didn't see, we had Tito Santana on the show. Uh, it was a remarkable interview, especially with the rest of the cast. So, if you missed out on it, by all means, check out HHW Show podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, and wherever else is your favorite podcast app. Check it out, HHW Show, Tito Santana. It's worth your while, believe it. And of course, you can also follow through on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube to catch the video image of the interview. And coming up next, again, we have the tag team turmoil where our focus is the 1990s. Who is the greatest tag team champions in the 90s? And Hector V will have it all for you coming up after this.
The Crossum Wrestling Entertainment Podcast, presented by Clovercrest Media, is what you AEW fans have been looking for. Noah Cross and Tyler Bard give their take on every week's episode of Dynamite. If you are a massive AEW fan, then it is time to join us every Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Stay Crossum.
Welcome to the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show. I am your host, Hector Vasquez, and we got a treat for you tonight. We're talking tag team turmoils, the 1990s. We went from going to the golden era now to the attitude era. The attitude era in which there was tag team wrestling that was a resurgence, a lot of great names, a lot of hard-hitting tag teams in this, and we can't wait to get started with this with the crew. And as you see right here, we're looking at our top 16 teams that made it into this tournament. There was a lot of great tag teams in this decade that could have made it, but we narrowed it down to these 16 right here. So let me go ahead and bring in the cast for you. We got our producer, Ovi. We got Tyler, and we got Jace that's joining us this evening. I know Frank is not unable to join us right now. So, gentlemen, how are y'all doing this evening?
Doing great.
We're doing well, and with Frank not being here, we hope that him and his family are doing well. We know that one of his family members was in the hospital, and we wish his family the best and a safe recovery.
Yes, sir. All right, let's get down to this, gentlemen. We're talking tag team turmoil. Okay, we saw a whole big shakeup in the 80s bracket, and now let's look at this 90s bracket here. Okay. Right. I was hoping somebody would bring this out. Do anybody see something that doesn't seem right in this bracket before we get started?
Well, we got a couple of tag teams there that are repeat, like Owen Hart is with the British Bulldog. We also have Owen Hart with Yokozuna. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see if both those tag teams that Owen Hart will actually advance, and it'll be crazy if they face each other, same person, and stuff like that. So that is pretty crazy, and that definitely could turn into a big turmoil.
And I think
Definitely.
the only other thing I noticed, Hector, was the Acolytes were kind of late 90s. And I see them more as a 2000s tag team, but they did originate in the 90s.
Right.
Right, but they had a different name, so we got to pay attention to that as well.
Exactly.
True.
Jace, do you see anything out of the ordinary with this bracket?
Nothing, but I just feel like this one is, I think, going to spark more conversations. We might get a little bit more arguments. Things might get a little more heated than the 80s. I think we're in for a good, solid debate here.
Man, I always get heated with OV.
Well, you know what I like the most is the Unholy Alliance, like the Undertaker and the Big Show. I mean, you can imagine them making all the way through, and then all of a sudden they go against the Brothers of Destruction.
Ooh.
And that was one hell of a heavyweight tag team match.
Well,
Undertaker be pulling double duty.
since we're talking about the keyword turmoil, let me give you the date and the place. October 30th, 1990, Fort Wayne, Indiana. The Rockers. Nobody's mentioned that.
Oh,
Controversy. Do the Rockers belong in this bracket as an official WWF Tag Team Champions?
Well, they did beat the
Oh,
Hart Foundation, but it was never televised because the belts were taken away. I mean, you know more about it, Hector.
Right.
So
Yeah.
go right ahead, spill the beans, man.
It's one of those crazy things that, and I have to believe now the whole situation with Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart started right here. The whole Montreal screw job, the screw job that happened, I think it started right here when these two were in their tag teams with the Rockers and the Hart Foundation. Well, because the Rockers beat the Hart Foundation at Fort Wayne, Indiana at a house show for the tag titles. But the WWF did not recognize it. They don't even have them down in the history books as WWF Tag Team Champions. But the Rockers did wind up defending the tag team titles once before they got stripped of those titles, and the record was erased as if it never happened. But technically, they did have those titles around their waist. And that's why I wanted to put turmoil and chaos into this by adding them into this tag team turmoil.
I'm glad you put them where you did.
Me too. I mean, I'm glad you put them what you did. As we can see that their first match was no other than the Rockers versus the New Age Outlaws. So, I mean, I don't know, Hector. I mean, the way you put this, I think this is. I don't want to say it like this, but I think this is a pretty easy picking. Don't you think?
Oh, you didn't know?
Oh, this is a free throw.
Hey,
Uh-oh. Jace took a deep breath.
I'm going to come to the side of the Rockers here. If what we had happened on the 80s bracket and Strike Force, granted, there were other circumstances.
Get out of here.
The Rockers, first off, there's songs about Marty Jannetty, which is big, obviously, because he still has an impact. Obviously, Shawn Michaels still doing NXT to this day. But also, that Sweet Chin music through the glass in the barbershop, that is a iconic moment in all of wrestling. And to say that's not to undersell that, yes, I know the resume for the New Age Outlaws is great, but that was just so iconic in all of wrestling. You see it all the time in highlights and in like top moments of wrestling. So I debated the idea of doing it, but I came to my senses and chose
Thank
not
God.
to do it.
Well, Jason, there was no
Yeah.
argument there just because every time the Rockets got the opportunity to main event or to be the top tag team, they always failed. They always lost. Okay. And the only times they end their victories is by disqualification, double countouts here and there. They never were able to handle top tag team champions throughout their run as tag teams. Okay. And what do you think that, their issues with the Hart Foundation. We just mentioned that before. Listen, the Rockers, yes, they were entertainment. If you would have picked them when they were AWA, they were like badass there. But some reason in the WWF, they were not tag team prone. Championship material, let's put it that way. So, of course, New Age Outlaws unanimously
Oh
takes the
yeah.
victory over the Rockers.
Another point of
even
defense for the
close.
Rockers. I
It's so
have the New
defending.
Age Outlaws. No, but also we brought this up last side of the bracket. The Rockers, they had an impact on pop culture. You go to people and you say, who are the Rockers? Who are Marty Jannetty? Who are Shawn Michaels? They're going to know. They are not that many people are going to know Badass Billy Gunn and Road Dogg.
Look, I understand that, but the thing is that what championship did they have except for what, a couple of days? So what if they brought the different culture inside the WWF? The thing is, they didn't win. They didn't win the big game.
I know.
So it's like the Buffalo Bills. They went to the Super Bowl 4 straight years, and guess what?
Dude,
They didn't win nothing.
Chase, you're going in that circle that OV had us confused in the last one. He was like, I forget who it was, but he's like, I really like John Cena. John Cena's an incredible wrestler, but I'm picking Kane. It's like, I don't understand why you're talking yourself in a little bit of a circle there.
No.
Wait,
I'm picking the New Age Outlaws, but like we can't just run past the Rockers. That's what I'm saying. Like, yes, it is obvious that the New Age Outlaws are going to win this match, but we still need to recognize what the Rockers did.
You want to acknowledge that the Rockers
the impact they had on WWE and WWF. That they had an impact, even though New Age Outlaws had a bigger impact. The Rockers had an impact.
If it was just Shawn Michaels versus the New Age Outlaws, I'd pick Shawn Michaels, but it's not. He's stuck in that tag team. So see you later.
And also, the New Age Outlaws, they had a lot more success with DX.
Yeah, we'll get to DX. Don't you worry.
Don't
you worry.
And
I
the 2000s. So I have the New Age Outlaws,
Jace,
but I just don't like the Rockers being discredited so hard because they had a big impact on wrestling.
I got you, Jace. Hold on for a second because you're
it's
taking overboard.
It's a good thing that the Rockers did not go as far as they did in the 90s because the Attitude Era would have swallowed them whole like the
100%.
There was no way. Now, like I said, I'll side with Jace for a whole minute as far as credit what credit's due because when the Rockers came about, they put them in the ring with teams like the Brainbusters and the Power of Pain and the Twin Towers and Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy. Not fair, but they held their own to the best of ability as a young team. But as far as Attitude Era, there's no way, no how. The New Age Outlaws just slide this match, whatever you want to call it. It's a done deal. New Age Outlaws.
It's definitely a done deal. And look, let me correct you real quick, Jace, before we move on to the next match. Is that when the Outlaws were first tag team champions, they were not DX. DX had nothing to do with it.
I didn't say that. I said they had a lot of success.
Yeah, the success was later, but we're sticking with the 90s, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Okay.
The Steiner Brothers versus the Acolytes. This is. I would have loved to see this. Like,
you talk about power versus power right here, guys.
Yeah,
it's just straight power. I mean, the Steiner brothers, they're like true wrestling gods when it comes to the in-ring performance. They Michigan, University of Michigan, right? They're Wolverines. Yeah. They're wrestlers. But these two guys over here, the Acolytes, man, these guys are just straight brute power. I mean, guys, 8-9 matchup here. Power versus power, guys. Talk to me. Obi, what do you think? What are you looking at?
Look, maybe a lot of people will go for the Steiner Brothers, and I know Steve is all up on the Steiner Brothers. I mean, thank you for your vote, but I like the Acolytes. I really do. I think they're more powerful, but they're evening out. It's a type of pick 'em, and I like the Acolytes.
Tyler,
I love Bradshaw. He is absolutely one of my favorite. He became who we all know now as JBL. And they became later the APA. I know we're supposed to just focus on this era, though. So if we were going to go into a little bit into the 2000s, this would have been way easier, and I would take the Acolytes by a landslide. But I personally think in this era, the Steiners had a tiny bit more of a hold in the wrestling community. And I know we're supposed to talk just WWF, but I think the Steiners were more well known at that time, and the Acolytes got well known in the 2000s. So I'm going to take the Steiners.
Interesting.
All right.
Chase?
I'm going the Acolytes because of what Tyler just said. Steiners, they had a lot of success outside the WWE. Inside the WWE, even though the Acolytes came about at the end of the 90s, the Acolytes still had more success in the WWE than the Steiners did in the 90s. So I'm just going to go the Acolytes. Yeah, they grew into the APA, and that even took them over the edge. But just as the Acolytes, I'm still giving them the edge over the Steiner brothers here.
Yeah,
I just feel like they were boring, though. Like, there was really not much to the Acolytes. Like, you watch some of their matches, and sure, they were strong, and they could press, and their chemistry was fine, but their ring presence didn't really mold together until they became the APA. And that's a big reason, because the Steiners have always worked really well together, whether it be WCW, WWF, TNA, everywhere they went, they were one of the best tag teams in the world. They may not have gotten all the gold in WWF, but I think they were still one of the most well-known tag teams of the 90s.
Yeah, granted, I give to Steiners, they're very popular, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes to WWE right here, I think the Acolytes were very feared when they were put in the ring. Later on, they were with another organization, the Ministry of Darkness. But as the Acolytes, these guys were just fearful. I mean, people just were scared of them. I mean, forget about the whole painting that they got on their chest or whatever. But, I mean, yeah, the Steiner brothers, they know how to work well together. But for two guys who are not blood brothers to work together and just dominate how they did in the ring, I think that their presence in the ring would have just been overpowering to the Steiner brothers. Granted, the Steiners would have had the wrestling techniques against them, but I'm sorry, you got Farouk in there, man. I mean, this guy is just a beast, and Bradshaw is not no little guy himself. So I think the Acolytes would have won this match. And looking at Frank's picks, he also had the Acolytes winning this match also.
But I bet you if we had Joe Aguirre in here on the show, he'll probably just debate and argue, probably convince us to pick the Steiner brothers. But that's not the case here. But hey, well, let's move on.
Scott Steiner's 50% chance of winning, and Samoa Joe's 8%, and a 33 and a third chance of Samoa Joe winning says otherwise. But
no, I don't. You must have been listening to Frank. Well, Frank is not here either. So, but the next match is the Unholy Alliance versus the Money's Inc. What a great match! And
is it?
I'll save my comments for last on this one.
Jace, talk to me. What do you think?
Oh, this one is rough. Obviously, I'm going to give it to Money Inc. They have the resume. They've got a lot of championships under their belt. But I'm going with the Unholy Alliance. The Big Show and the Undertaker together? Like, no. I'm going with it. Like, those are two of my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time on a tag team. I'm going with them. And then also Viscera and Midian in their corner. They can handle Jimmy Hart. While these two beat up on Erwin R. Scheiser and Ted DiBiase.
So you don't think DiBiase would have been able to buy one of them guys off?
Thank you. You stole my thunder. Thank you.
Ted DiBiase would put a cool $1,000 in Big Show's hand, and he would walk out that ring and leave Undertaker hanging.
No. Undertaker would have accepted.
Then you got Midian to fill the void. Undertaker part of anyone's gonna win regardless.
Bro.
I think Tito Santana would disagree.
I love Taker, but Money's Inc. 1,000%, and that's coming from Steve. So
you know what, Steve? Steve is a good buddy of mine, and I completely agree with Steve. I love the $1 Million Man. Anytime that he comes back in a cameo, it's just so good to see him, and never mind see him, just to hear him. You don't even have to know. You won't even know he's there, but you hear that ha 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 ha. and you just get so ready for him to come pay someone off for their championship belt. I just think I get what you're saying about the unholy alliance, Jace. I understand. This is the Undertaker we're talking about. I believe Undertaker won the WrestleMania bracket, did he not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a guy who we, as a podcast, put on the highest potential pedestal of all WWE performers of all time. But we're talking about tag team wrestling right now. And I wouldn't put him as if I'm going to save his tag team to move on for another era completely. And this ain't it, Chief. We're going with Money Inc. in this round.
No, there's a reason why Money Inc. is a 3-time WWF tag team champions, especially in the 90s. That's one up on the unholiness. So,
the unholiness.
Noah responds. So I want you to type out Ted's laugh, but couldn't figure out how to. Thank you, Tyler, for doing it. So there you go, right there.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with what Manuel saying. You know, Money Inc. just had more chemistry. I mean, you know, they knew how to work together. I mean, they beat the likes of the LOD, you know, in the Attitude Era. And you know, going back to what you were saying, Tyler, about the Rockers. You know, I mean, not the Rockers. I think the New Age
Diners. Oh yeah.
You know, the Unholy Alliance, they came into the late 90s. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and before them, I mean, Money Inc. was running the business. I mean, when you got kind of chemistries of IRS and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, I mean, I'm surprised they didn't have somebody like Donald Trump as their manager. I mean, because they just really talk, you know, and you know the rest walks. So
you're an era too. You're a few years too early for Donald Trump poking his nose in the business.
And I believe also Frank also picked Money Inc. on this one. So and I have Money Inc. on. I mean, I love my Undertaker, but I just think that Money Inc. just had a better run together.
I'll be the
You all right, Jace?
I will defend Big Show and Undertaker to the depths, regardless of anything. So I will take my odd man out position, and I will be fine with it.
I like it. Eyes with pride.
All right, so we're looking at the number 4 versus the 13 seed.
Oh, by the way, I had them going to the Elite Eight.
Ooh.
What?
Ooh. So we got here the
crazy
versus the Nasty Boys. Jace, you want to lead this off, buddy?
Yeah, I got it. This one was rough. Not like the biggest names in all of wrestling. This was a jam-packed. This is a jam-packed decade with some great tag teams, but just plain and simple, the Nasty Boys, they had a lot of success outside the WWE, and not as much success in the WWE. But the Quebecers, like the whole idea of them coming together as the Mountie and that stuff, I like that a lot. And they were able to just succeed a lot more in the WWE and have a lot more success than the Nasty Boys did. So I'm moving the Quebecers on here.
Oh,
yeah, I am with you, Jace. The Quebecers were just a better gimmick overall, a better. And you know what? It's funny we say that because I believe last time Jacques appeared in a bracket, we were like, "Oh, get out of here, get off of this bracket." But now we have him with the Quebecers because he was a better tag team wrestler. And I believe 3-time tag team champs, if I'm not wrong.
You're absolutely correct. They were
3-time tag team champs compared to 1. If we're sticking to strictly WWF, which I believe is the parameters we're sticking to here, right, Hector?
Yes.
Then it's an easy choice. We have to go with the Quebecois Canadians. Let's go with the Quebecers here.
I'm just going to tell you right now that Frank picked the Nasty Boys.
Okay. So we got 2-1.
And I'm going to go in here before I throw in Ovi, and I'm going to tell you the Nasty Boys. Here's why.
Woo!
Attitude Era, the Nasty Boys. Look how they dressed. Okay, straight punk style. I get it. One time they won the tag team titles. But the Quebecers, 3-time tag team champions. Who did they beat? Nobody's. The 1-2-3 Kid and Marty Jannetty. Men on a Mission. The Head Shrinkers. Who are these guys? These guys are not even in my brackets. That's how they weren't even worthy enough to be in here. The Quebecers, yeah, good gimmick. Don't get me wrong. But the Nasty Boys, they just had that nastiness about them that they just brought to the table, whether it's heel, whether it's face. They can do it on both sides. And for that, I give it to the Nasty Boys winning this match against the Quebecers.
Man, you mentioning that they beat nobody? Are you serious? Man, this is the same tag team that defeated the Steiner brothers, and you're gonna tell me that they were nobody?
I think I get what you're
the Steiner
saying.
brothers on there. Hold on, and
I
then
get-
look, I know that the foreign fanatics were not probably in your thing. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they took the titles away from Kid and Marty Jannetty, but they handled their business. As especially as a heel. All right. And so I'm sorry, man. I mean, I know a lot. Look, at the beginning, I had the Nasty Boys right off the bat without doing my research. I said the Nasty Boys. They were, the Simpsons. You know what I mean? But I gotta give credit due, and I have to pick the Quebecers on this one.
Oh, Canada.
All right, Ovi just picked the Quebecers. Tyler, you gonna change?
I am standing still. Quebecois, I will not this time because it wasn't me disagreeing with Ovi. Ovi took my side, so I can stand still on this.
Oh, there you go. Only one time. Only one time. But look, Manuel
wrong one.
says,
Sorry.
Nasty Boys. I know Steve said Nasty Boys, but hey, let's dig a little deeper. Noah, outstanding. Yay, Canada. Of course, my friend. But hey, it could have gone either way, but you got to give credit what is due.
The Quebecers move on, but it was a tight race there, the Nasty Boys. So look at here, we got two dudes with an attitude.
Here we go.
LOD, what a rush!
Look, I can't look at what's his name? Oh my God, really? Like we just talked about him last week.
What are you talking about?
Shawn Michaels.
There you go.
Kevin Nash.
Every time I look at Shawn Michaels, I think of 4D. All right, with Tito Santana. I keep cracking. It cracks me up, man.
I
Where
believe
you got
it was
a booger in your
D4.
nose?
I believe it was D4, but all right.
But look, I've been always a big fan, and the resume speaks for itself. No matter whether he was in WCW, NWA, they did the same thing in the WWF. These guys were the hardcore champions. All right, and I'm picking the Legion of Doom on this.
Yeah, see, we got a different Shawn Michaels than we did with the Rockers here. You know what I'm saying? A much more aggressive, a much more conceited type of Shawn Michaels, a better champion here. But yeah, you're right. Legion of Doom, man. I mean, these two hawking animal. I mean, they just it's no competition. I mean, it doesn't matter if that one gets a super kick or a power bomb. They just get up and just finish these guys off.
Hey, remember this is
Michaels.
before the demolition was made. Vince McMahon wanted the Road Warriors to come to WWF. And because they couldn't get it, he had Greg the Hammer Valentine to go out there to try to recruit these guys over to WWF. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what happened between that communication until later on. And I guess Vince McMahon did not want to, how you say it? He didn't have any patience. He didn't want to wait. And that's when you had the demolition form. And, of course, we're going to talk about that later down the road with these two tag teams. But finally, the Road Warriors were now the Legion of Doom and WWF, and they went in there with no hesitation, Animal and Hawk. They were tearing down the show, man.
Sure. Yeah. I was a little tiny bit on edge for this one because the obvious pick here is Legion of Doom. But this was the Shawn Michaels that came right before he joined the NWO. So this was what formed Shawn Michaels into joining the NWO with Nash, that famous announcement of the newest member of the NWO is, and then Shawn Michaels' music hit. So just that basis of this tag team and their connection being made here almost tipped the scales for them. But you guys already talked about the resume. The Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, as they would later become known, were just one of the greatest tag teams of all time.
One could say that super kick in the barber shop is what made Shawn Michaels what he is today, and
We
what he
still talking
was
about that?
in Two Dudes with Attitude. I am still talking about that.
Come on, man. Come on. I can't
You
believe
give that
pulled
man
a
his mic
prank.
back.
I
Give that man his mic back.
All right, I just had to bring that up because, I'm going with Legion of Doom. When I was a little kid and I saw them for the first, when I saw Animal come back I know it was in the early 2000s, but when I saw him come back, first thing I did was shave my head for football and walk around in my pads, acting like I was Animal. Shave the mohawk. Yeah, it's Legion of Doom all the way. Like Two Dudes with Attitude, they were great, but really their whole tag team was just so they could end up feuding with each other, which doesn't make a great tag team.
Right.
But so Legion of Doom all the way.
And there's no tag team that is imitating the Two Dudes, but there was a tag team literally based off of the Legion of Doom. So I think they're pretty obvious on who should be moving on.
All right. Look at those biceps on the British Bulldog right there, just flexing them. Man, oh man.
We even have to do this.
Smoking Guns, Owen Hart Owen Hart versus the Smoking Guns.
By himself.
Wow.
By himself. OV.
Oh, damn.
With the slammy.
We had some technical difficulties.
I think that's why.
Well, we all know Owen Hart and the British Bulldog.
I think that's why the Bulldog looks like that. He's like, you forgot about me?
He's like, what the hell?
All right, so what's going on here?
Man. All I got to say for me personally, September 22nd, 1996, In Your House, 10 Mind Games. Bulldog, Owen Hart, took down the Smoking Guns, win the tag team titles. That's all I got to say about that.
Bing, I second to that one.
Oh?
You suspect,
You
man. You took my notes.
Oh, my bad.
You have something to add?
Absolutely not. That's it. They won.
Yeah.
So we're doing this again. We're doing they faced each other in real life. So therefore, in this hypothetical bracket, that's how it should be. Absolutely agree with you this time. Owen Hart and Owen Hart and the Bulldogs. Moving on.
Yeah, I too have Owen Hart and the Bulldogs. Smoking Guns were great, but like Billy Gunn didn't become his own till the New Age Outlaws. And I mean, also Owen Hart and British Bulldog, both double champs at the time they were holding the belts. And it took Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin to come together to end their 246-day reign. Those are two big names in the business to get rid of Owen Hart and the British Bulldogs. So
yeah, and also Frank, he had Owen Hart and the British Bulldogs, and before that, he also had the Legion of Doom. Also, I forgot.
Sweet.
So yep.
Yeah. Hey,
Can I just say I love the next round? Like it's my favorite one on the bracket by
Fair
far.
enough. But I'll tell you what, before we move on to the last two matchups, let's take a commercial break real quick. Presented by Clovercrest Media.
Clovercrest Media Group presents a CMG podcast. Keys to the City.
Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know.
Crossed up by Kobe, roll floated to Shaq, and then Shaq goes like this, and the rest is history. Pay attention. Don't tell me what to do, Devil Woman. But speaking of those Lakers, but I hold on. But I didn't make my. I didn't make my. I said Denver's gonna win. Yeah, you did. You said that. There's no other show like that. Clovercrest is doing great things right now.
Streaming everywhere.
I love that. I love Teddy right there, man. Don't tell me what to do, Devil Woman. I love that comment.
Wow.
So this was easily my favorite round because it's just hilarious. The tag teams that were put together, that it's just like yin and yang on both sides. These two wrestlers and both tag teams who you would never think would team together, Kane and X-Pac versus Owen Hart and Yokozuna. It's like, all right, Vince, what did you just throw some names in a hat and pick them out, and that's who the newest tag team was? So I went back and compared some of the titles or reigns or moments, and there really wasn't too much to say to differentiate the two of them, because I believe they had the same amount of tag team reigns. They each had 2 reigns. So I really just based it off of which one I liked their moments better, and I just thought that Kane and X-Pac had a more hilarious connection, and they were more fun to watch and more entertaining. Because how hilarious is it when you match a guy who barely says a word with a guy who's the most spazzy person in WWE at that time? They were just so much fun to watch, seeing such polar opposite personalities in the ring together. So easy right off the bat, I'm taking Kane and X-Pac.
And Kane with that mask. I mean, when he came out with that mask, I mean, he was just so frightening and so chilling, just so scary. And so Yokozuna at this time, he's probably going downhill already. You know what I'm saying? He was a brute force, very, very strong wrestler. But I think Kane would have just put Yokozuna in his place. I don't know, with a small little choke slam, maybe. I don't know.
That little uppercut into a leg drop.
Yeah, Owen Hart might have been better than X-Pac, you know what I'm saying, as a technical wrestler, but I think Kane and X-Pac would have won this match.
Yeah, I got Kane and X-Pac too. Like I love Big Show and Undertaker, I love Kane just as much. But Owen Hart and Yokozuna, they had an all right 175-day reign, but they lost the belts and won them to people that have already lost in this bracket already today. I think one Owen Hart team's enough, and I think Kane and X-Pac, like their feuds with the Ministry of Darkness turned into the Acolytes and then the Unholy Alliance. I think that's great, and I just enjoyed it. So yeah, Kane and X-Pac.
Well, one thing, y'all forgot to mention is that during their championship run, Owen Hart was replaced by the British Bulldog because he was he had to rejoin with his wife I think his wife was giving birth. And so I would have picked Kane and X-Pac just for that reason. So, yeah, there you go. They advanced to the next round.
Sweet.
And that moves on to our next one.
Oh, boy.
The Rock and Sock Connection versus the Natural Disasters.
I like how we all acted like we don't know how this one's going to end.
You don't know?
You know how this is going to go. If any of you pick the Natural Disasters, I am going to be pretty disappointed in you. The Rock and Sock Connections got some of the biggest pops of the Attitude Era when those two were in the ring together. Never mind when they were together, when they were opponents as well. These two had such incredible chemistry in the ring. They are one of the best tag teams, in my opinion, of the 90s, and I will continue to fight for them. The Rock and Sock Connection had I believe 3 tag team tag team championship runs, as well as being one of the most entertaining tag teams of that time frame. So, and then the Natural Disaster. Are we really going to give them any ground on The Rock and Mick Foley and Mankind and Dude Love? And it's just not happening. Not in my realm.
Well, according to the weather, there was a 90% chance that the Rock and Sock Connection was going to win this match. So
it was pretty interesting as how Natural Disaster came about because they were under Jimmy Hart, and I think Jimmy Hart was also managing the Money Inc. And Money Inc. were going for another title shot and not Natural Disaster, and that's why they fired Jimmy Hart. And then going our way around again, it was this big feud within the manager's perspective, and that's what Natural Disaster came. They won the fans' love right there, but they only won one tag team championship. They didn't last that long. But you're right, The Rock, man. Any tag team with The Rock, even Tito Santana wished that he had a tag team with The Rock. And so if Tito does that, you got to go rock bottom on that one. Hey, Rock and Sock all the way.
Hey, Natural Disaster, they did beat Money Inc. for those titles.
Yeah, they did. And also with Natural Disaster,
Not at first
No,
because it was a disqualification match. They
Yeah.
did beat them just because of that at WrestleMania,
And-
but they never got the titles till later.
Yeah, and then at the 92 Royal Rumble, they also had a title match, which they won, but it was via count out, so they didn't get the belts, which stunk. But yeah, I also have I also have the Rock and Sock connection. Like when I mentioned earlier with Two Dudes with Attitude, they were a team that was destined to feud and turn around. But with the Rock and Sock connection, they turned their feud into a team up. And I loved how it formed, how The Rock was about to take on the Unholy Alliance. And Mick Foley's all like, I got you. Don't worry. I can help you. And then even when at the end of their tag team run, when Mankind gave Rock the book and Rock threw it away, and Mankind was so mad that it ended up being The Rock versus the Holly Cousins. It was just great. They're both electric. Obviously, The Rock being the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. But like people came to watch this. People came to watch Rock and Sock Connection. Everyone loved what they did as a feud, and them together was just as great.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm assuming Frank took the same people.
Yeah, he got the same ones, definitely.
Sweet.
Yep, clean sweep. I mean,
All
the
right.
Rock and Sock connection for two single competitors to go at it as much as they did, and still work, have a great chemistry together as a tag team and win gold on multiple occasions, and who they beat, which we're not going to get into right now because that's going to be a little conflict within this bracket, which is we're going to get into. It's going to be very interesting to see if the Rock and Sock connection is really the number 2 seed, or are they even lower? We'll see.
Ooh.
Dang.
Shade.
So this is what we have going into the second round. We have the New Age Outlaw versus the Acolytes, Money Inc. versus the Quebecers, the Legion of Doom versus Owen Hart and British Bulldogs, and Kane and X-Pac versus the Rock and Sock. So that's going to be pretty interesting coming next week, next Tuesday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I just can't wait. But there's more. We will not be talking about this next week because we have Clash of Champions prediction show scheduled next week. So 2 weeks from now, we'll narrow it down to who's the winner in the 1990s and then move on to year 2000, the post-Attitude Era, which it was spiking up then. I'm a firm believer that the 2000s were pretty much the best tag teams because they lit up a lot of fire, a lot of action, a lot of how you call that, first time seeing on what's going on. They elevated to another one, and not to mention the individuals. But hey,
right. You could argue though the tag team divisions are what propelled WWF above WCW in the early 2000s. A specific one, which we will talk about when we get there.
But there's one more topic I want to talk about, and Steve mentioned this in one of our comments. I like to read to you guys. He says, "Why do we even have discussions like this? According to Dave Meltzer, the Young Bucks are the best team from any era." And I'm gonna tell you that's actually false. Okay, these guys.
Wait, hold on. Before you go any further, do not say one bad thing about the Young Bucks. They are
I'm not saying
the best thing in wrestling right now.
You said right now. He's saying any era. Yes, I could say something. You damn right I am.
Don't you dare.
No. Honestly, they are not the best tag teams of any era. All right? You don't take Hardy Boys at their prime. You don't take Christian, okay, and Edge. No, I'm sorry. I'm not picking the Young Bucks over them two at any given time.
The Young Bucks are just the Rockers wannabe.
I did not expect that comment, but
testify.
Bam! There you go. So we could save that for another one. And before he says something,
was that my heel turn on Tyler?
And right again. No. Anyways, hey, this is a great show. And Hector, this is and also Tag Team Turmoil. I said this before, And I just can't wait till also in a couple of weeks where we have Joe back on the show and he'll give more input on his view on the tag team turmoil, especially next to Jason.
Oh,
But hey, I ain't the only one because hold on, Rockers wannabe, but with more talent and charisma.
wait,
Hey,
they're not rocker wannabes. What are you talking about?
See, even the man that. Oh,
but
he agrees.
hey, listen.
Let's go.
No disrespect on the Young Bucks. One last thing. Yeah, they're great. I watched them at AEW because that's how it is. I watched a lot of YouTube clips about them. They are talented. They are good. I'm not no discredit or nothing like that. But they're just not better than the ones that I mentioned. So more to follow on this. All right, but yeah, but we got to cut this show down. And hey, guys, stand by real quick. Any last words, Hector?
You know, with the 90s, we're talking about Attitude Era. You know, we got a lot of great tag teams still left to go, and we got a couple of more decades to go, and we can't wait to see what that's going to come out to be. You know, I think it's just a great thing that what we're looking at here with who's left in the 90s bracket. You know, and just can't wait to see what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks and who's going to come out on top because we got a lot of debate going on with these teams that's left. So it's going to be very interesting.
Absolutely, and 2 weeks from now we'll find out who's the actually 1990s champion with Jace, Tyler, and yourself being on the show. Hopefully, Frank will be back then. Frank, I see you're texting and everything else. I hope that your family is doing well. Hey, on behalf of everybody here at Clovercrest Media at HSW Show, hey, tune in next week as we'll take a pause on the tag team turmoil and focus on the pay-per-view event. Clash of Champions was scheduled on the 27th of September. That's a Sunday. And with that, next week, we will predict who's actually going to win, who's going to be the WWE champion, and who knows what's going to happen with the Retribution. Little by little, things are starting to unfold, and we can't wait to get back on the excitement on what's going on WWE. So on behalf of Clovercrest, HSW Show, and everyone else, thank you for watching the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show.
Visit the HHWShow.com sportscast where you can find all the news, rumors, updates, and predictions from the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show, all 4 downs, join about the G-Men, and keys to the city. If you ever want to do a podcast, this is the place to do it. Starting at $15 a month, you can get unlimited hosting and $50 a month for the full package. Visit ClovercrestMedia.com for more information.
A big thank you to the StreamYard for their fine streaming service. On behalf of HSW crew, I am Ovi Muniz. Thank you for listening to the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show.